we tend to do the things that we know how to do rather than doing the things that we ought to be doing. Now, this is the case as Abraham mentioned in the beginning of this book that in the science, what happens is that there are two kinds of scientists who do this a lot. And now these two kinds of scientists are the animal scientists. So this is the scientist who uses animals in his research. So like now those who use white rat. On the other hand, we have the statistics scientist. So this is scientist is a scientist who uses statistics in his work. And now what Abraham clarifies is that with these scientists, they are not looking to solve new problems. They are only looking to solve the problems that they can use their tools effectively. So, in case of the animal scientists, they are only looking to solve problems whereby they can use their animals in their experiments. For the statistics scientists, only solving problems that they'll be using their statistics in solving their problems. Now, this is the fourth session of the Lead Book Review series. And in this series, what I do is that every week I review one book. So this is out of the books that I've read. I review one book per week. And now from each book, I share my biggest takeaways from each book. Now, if you don't know me, I am Samuel Kim, the founder and CEO of NK Elite. Now we'll get right into it. And now I have three takeaways from Motivation and Personality by Abraham Maslow. Now the first takeaway is that we should focus on the questions instead of the answers. And now this is particularly true in science. Now the idea is that we have learned all the answers. And the only thing that we should be focusing on now, the only thing that we don't know are the questions. So this one is about instead of first wasting time focusing on the answers that we already have, we should ask new questions which will lead us to new answers. And now this is true in science as I've already mentioned. This is also true in business. This is true in fundraising, and this is also true in marketing. Now, a second takeaway. Now, second takeaway is about how we are as human beings. And the idea is that man is a wanted animal. So the idea here is that we are never fully satisfied. So what generally happens is that when one need is satisfied, we are only satisfied for a very short amount of time, and then another need comes up. Once that need is satisfied, we are satisfied for another short time, and then another need comes up. So at the end of the day, throughout our life, what happens is that there's always need after need. So need comes up, it is satisfied, another comes up, satisfied, another like that, like that. So at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that throughout our life, what happens is that we are always desiring something. Now, around to my final takeaway from this book. Now, my final takeaway is what has made this book very popular. And now, what has made this book very popular is the basic need and the categorization that Abraham Maslow makes of the basic need. Now, I have I've drawn here those categories. I don't know if you can see them, but I've drawn them here. And now, as you can see, there are five basic needs. Now, this five basic need, the first one is the physiological need. So, physiological needs, these are needs about food, when you need food, when you are thirsty, and it also entails sex. Now, what happens with this need, as I've already mentioned, is that once one need is satisfied, another one comes out. And so, in our case here, once the physiological needs are satisfied, the safety needs comes up. Now, the safety needs, when they come up, these are needs about, so this is about us being safe and about us, our family being safe and all the people around us being safe. And now it also goes as far as the planet now. So the safety needs, these are about not feeling in danger. So these are about feeling that there is nothing that is threatening us at the moment. So that is what the safety needs are about. Now, once the safety needs are satisfied, what happens is that another need comes up, and this now is about social craving. Now, social craving now, this is the need of belongingness and love. So this one comes from our friendships, this one comes from our family, this one come from our groups, this one come from our community, this one also come from our significant other. So this can be girlfriend, wife, yeah, like that. So that is what the need is about. Now, once our social craving has been satisfied, what happens is that another need comes up. And now this need now is about esteem. Now esteem is about the values that we place on ourselves. And now this one goes in two ways. So the first way is that how we view ourselves. So this one is personally, how we personally view ourselves. And then the second component is how other people view us. So it comes in those two ways. And now this need has various components. So for example, there is achievement, there is mastery, there is recognition, there is fame, there is appreciation. So all these come into the esteem need. Now, as I've already mentioned, the esteem needs are about reputation. So our reputation personally and our reputation in terms of how others see us. Once our reputation is sorted out, what happens that there is one more need that comes up for us. And this one more need is that is self-actualization. So self-actualization comes after our physiological needs have been satisfied, after our safety needs have been satisfied, after our belongingness and love needs have been satisfied, and finally after our esteem needs have been satisfied. So this is when now, once our esteem needs have been satisfied, this is when now self-actualization need shows up. And now the self-actualization need, this one is about the self-fulfillment that we feel from the realization that we have about ourselves. So this one is more about us realizing our potential. So this one is when you are young, we always ask about potential, and what happens is that at the end of the day, once you reach this need now, that is when we want to become very clear. Now, this one is not about professionals or something like that. This one is about doing something that is related to you personally. So this one is very subjective. So the way it look for me, it is very different from the way it look for you. The way it look for you is very different from the way it look for the other person. So that is what actualization is about. So it is very specific and very subjective. Now, as I've already mentioned, this one is about you realizing your potential. So this one, the question here is, are you doing what you are meant to be doing? And so, for example, we can talk about if you are a writer like me now, you can say, are you writing? If you are a writer, do you write? If you are an artist, do you make art? If you are a musician, do you make music? If you are a businessman, are you running a business? So that is what self-actualization is about. So this one is about realizing your highest potential. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, now there is one question that led me to this book, and this one question is a question that I've been asking for a very long time. Yeah, this is a question that I've been sitting with since I was in primary school. Then I went to high school. It was still in my mind. Then I went to campus. It was still in my mind. Then I came out. It was still on my mind. And now, the moment I read this book, this is where now it gave me answers that I was looking for. And now the question for me is, why do people do what they do? So I will repeat it. Why do people do what they do? And now, for the last time, why do people do what they do? So that question has been on my mind for a long time, and now that is the question that led me to psychology, whereby I was trying to understand what makes people do what they do. And now, in this book, Motivation and Personality, it gave me a lot of answers of why people do the way they do, what they do. So nowadays, when I see someone doing something, I kind of have an idea. Once I dig in a little, I kind of have an idea of what need they are seeking to satisfy. So that is all about motivation and personality. And next week I'll be reviewing another book. And now this book now is about quitting your job. Yeah, so we'll be talking about your job. So if you are in a job, if you know someone who is in a job, next week's session will be very valuable for you. And now if for another person, it will also be very valuable for that other person. So I recommend you getting this book, Motivation and Personality, if you have been asking the same question as me. Why do people do what they do? I've been asking that question. I recommend you getting a copy of Motivation and Personality. So for now, bye bye. KPDM.